Now, which came first, acting or singing for you?
Well, technically singing came first, but acting took off first. When I was a kid, I just decided to go to this Debbie Allen Dance Academy, and she shows up one day and she's like, does anybody know how to sing? Little did I know, she was casting these plays that she does called, this one was Dancing in the Wings. And it was a book that she published, and she asked me if I knew how to act. Next thing I know, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to act, but I'm sitting in front of Debbie Allen, and she's asking me to read her book as if I was each character. So I do it, and at the time, I never knew, like, voiceover existed. I'm around 10 or 11 at the time. I get casted, so 11, 12 years old, I'm performing at the Kennedy Center in front of Will Smith, Diana Ross, Steven Spielberg, all these different people, so I kind of accidentally fell into acting. And then all of a sudden, I felt like it started to take over my world, and I was out of control of it, and more people wanted me to focus on that. But in reality, my music, like, that's where my heart is. So I found out, I was like, oh, I'm willing to spend hours and hours and hours in the studio, but I hate going over my lines, you know? So, yeah, but it all kind of came full circle, you know, every single time.
So people wanted you to do the acting thing, stick with it. They thought you could be profitable for it if you stayed in that lane, but you personally feel that music is your calling.
Exactly.
Or your passion.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was willing to put my 50,000 hours in becoming a great songwriter and an artist, but I realized I didn't love acting as much, especially because it took me away from the thing that I really truly did love, you know, and I think that I started to have some resentment towards the fact that so many people are like, yo, script, and I'm like, oh, well, I just want to sit at the studio. So, but like now this year is the first time that I'll be going in, well, the end of this year, next year, I'll be, I'm actually interested in acting again. I've been reading some amazing scripts.
Oh.
I've just been open to the idea now. I'm still doing voiceover. I do voiceover for Sims. And yeah, now I'm just waiting to see something that inspires me enough to, you know, really, really become the character this time around.
So you never quit acting or ever put it on pause?
I put it on pause.
You
exactly.
did.
Besides voiceover, I said I wanted to dye my hair. I want to do crazy things but I want to use my voice still. So then I booked Sims, and I've been doing that since I was a teenager. And so the last probably 3 games they released, I'm doing voiceover in it, and it's very interesting because I just wanted to be able to use my voice as a tool and an instrument. I like doing voiceover a little bit more than on screen, I think, just because it's so much more exciting, I guess. Like when I did a DC comic, there was 7 actors in the room, 7 microphones all set up, and imagine it like Superman, Superwoman, Cyborg, all that, and all you're hearing is like you're hearing all of these action sounds, and it's super interesting for me to watch because I'm the newbie to them. You know, my partner that does Sims with me, he's done Family Guy, he's done The Simpsons, he's done so many monumental things. But so that's more where I was focused on for a minute, voiceover and just music.
Sometimes I've heard people when they do voiceovers, they're by themselves. They don't. The other characters aren't even in the studio with them. Exactly.
So sometimes I'm by myself, and then sometimes there's me and a boy. And then if it's like a whole ensemble, like there was 8 characters, then we all feed off of each other sometimes.
I see. So you did technically take a break from acting, but still continue to do voiceover work.
Exactly.
In the meantime. So does that count as acting still?
It really does. It actually, I think, is a little bit more tough than even doing music for me because I don't mind sitting in the studio for hours and hours and hours. But when you're doing voiceover and you're saying the same thing over and over and over again all day, and then you're watching these monitors and you're trying to match your lips to the monitors and the energy and everything, it's definitely a different talent. Most voiceover actors can do so many different voices. So I've played a little boy, I've played a young girl, I've played an adult before, and that's what makes it so fun to me.
Why'd you get the acting bug again?
I saw a script. And all of a sudden my agent reaches out to me. She says, I know that you're not, really interested in acting right now, and I understand that you really want to focus on music, because right now I'm in the most comfortable place as far as making this transition from being a writer and an actress and a vocal producer to being a singer in my own right. But I read the script and was like, this could be something really cool. And then I saw another idea that I liked, and then I saw another one. And so now I'm like, okay, maybe my heart is prepared to say, we've proven ourselves as a writer. Let's go back around and continue to perfect everything else and bring it into the future.
So even though you did technically take a break, but you're still doing voiceover work, your agent was still pitching you stuff?
So my agent literally, at first I said, don't send me anything at all. When I started to decide to tour and all of that stuff, I was like, and started to get soundtrack records and things like that, I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Now that Tayla Parx, the artist, is coming out, why not go back to the screen? You know what I'm saying? I spent so much time purposely being in the back so that I could really hone in on my talents and my craft and really get it the right way. And now if I'm going to go back into acting, I'm going to do it the right way and the best of my capabilities and really put the time in to become a great one. Other than that, if you're not going to be great at it, or if you don't have any desire to be great at it, me anyway, I'm just like, I can't, But now, I'm feeling a little burn inside.
How old do you think you were when the singing music stuff started for you?
I was very, very, very young. Like, my mom says the first song that I learned was Erykah Badu called Tyrone, which is so random to think about, like a little baby listening in the car seat, like, God, like, it's a very interesting image to me. Well, my mom would be letting me listen to that. But I definitely
Just asking how old you were when you started singing?
Yeah. Let me get you one more time. Literally, I used to sing Erykah Badu in the car, Brian McKnight. My parents got me my first karaoke machine when I was around 10 years old. And so I was always singing Brian McKnight and Babyface and all those people around that age. I didn't do it professionally until about 17. That's when I first started to write and really that's when I got my first success actually as a writer. But I've been singing all of my life. I was writing records in my bedroom, going to my mom, running upstairs, waking her up, bothering her, asking what does she think of this melody or this lyric, or and just getting good criticism. My parents are very strict, so they would never be like, great job right away. So forced me to work harder.
And then the acting stuff, when did that start?
The acting started when I was 11 officially. I auditioned for Hairspray. My mom used to sneak me into auditions before Hairspray. So I did Carpoolers and Bones and True Jackson VP and Everybody Hates Chris. A lot of different TV shows. But then all of a sudden, when I was booking Gilmore Girls, they were like, wait a minute, you don't have an agent. How are you getting in on all these things? I'm like, my mom has been sneaking me in. They pick up the phone and they call right away. I sit down with the agent and she's like, I'm 12 years old, I sit down with the agent. I said, there's this movie that I feel like everybody's auditioning for except for me. Like everybody. And I say it's Hairspray. She makes a call and she gets a audition set up, and from that moment, I was like, you know what? I believe in her because she took a chance on somebody who hadn't signed to her yet and that she just met. And, we still rock together to this day.
So as you were doing the acting stuff, even that young, you were still juggling music at the same time, simultaneously?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I would be writing lyrics in the car or planning on how I was going to. I've always played piano and guitar. So I'm always musically inspired in some type of shape, way, or form, whether I'm in the booth talking Simlish or whether I'm walking down the street and listening to the wind blow. There's music everywhere for me.
Tough juggling both?
Nah, like, because it's just everywhere. It's not really a juggle. It's just, it's there. It's always there. It's just kind of like what you decide to focus on. I'm focusing on, like, I manage myself, and I also, I'm a publishing deal and a writer and a vocal producer. I put so many different hats on. I designed my merch. I put so many different hats on throughout the week that it's really not hard to manage it all. Only when I was so deep into acting and not able to do anything but audition and get callbacks and things was it a little bit stressful to do both. But if I love something, I'm going to make it happen,
At about what age did you make that decision to focus on just the singing, the musical portion?
When I was 17, I decided to take the chance and just say, hey, I'm going to step outside of my mom and dad's bedroom and let's just see what happens. That same year, I ended up meeting Babyface, who was one of my first mentors, him and Tony Dixon. And I used to just kind of be around the studio and learning from them, and all of a sudden I finally got to be able to get in the room with them. And then it was like, oh, all these guys are way more experienced than me, older than me, all this stuff, and I felt like a little mouse, like in a cage full of lions almost. And it's not anything that they did, it's just, it's how I felt, being a new writer, being around so many incredible people. And yeah, like that's when it all started off. I started to start going into their studios and meeting producers here and there that were coming in as well. And from one studio to the next, I bounced.
What was your parents' or your family's reaction to you making a decision to focus on the music and not so much the acting stuff? Even though at that moment, from 11 to 17, that was a big deal for you.
My parents, they kind of support anything that I do. The most important thing is they want me to be the best at whatever I do. So if I tell them, hey, Mom and Dad, I don't think that I love this enough to even try to be the best at this or one of the best at this, they're like, okay, it's going then, it's cut. Find something that you love to do. It's been pretty, like, dope having supportive parents, though. Like, they watch over me with every single thing. Like, I talk to my mom every single day. And so when I told them, hey, I want to just do voiceover, they were like, okay, fine by me.
Now, let's say somebody is, well, let me ask you this, before I even ask you this other question. Do you feel typecasted as one or the other? Do you feel like you're in a box as an actress, or do you feel like you're in a box as a musician, or?
I feel like I'm more so in the box as a songwriter versus an artist, which I think a lot of people get that confused. There's a difference between a pop star and an artist. A lot of pop stars, they don't write their own music, and that's fine. They give songwriters jobs. Like if every artist wrote their music, there would be no songwriters, there would be no producers, there would be no one for them to work for. But I think a true artist is somebody that can create for themselves, and just because you're able to do it for a million other people doesn't mean that you can't do it for yourself equally as good. Because I think the main difference is my music sounds different than anybody who I have written for, so it's a tough thing to break out of, but I feel like people understand, they get it. They're able to see a side of Tayla Parx versus just tailor-made, tailor-made by Tayla Parx.
I guess the assumption would be that if you're a songwriter and you can make a hit for somebody else, you should be able to technically make one for yourself. But maybe a songwriter doesn't have the right image or the right entertaining skills to...
Totally. Yeah, I don't think that every songwriter is an artist. Just like I don't think every artist should try to write their songs. Either way, it's a catastrophe. Every role kind of makes the entertainment industry go round. And it's just something different. That you have to figure out. And the music is changing so fast, and the industry is changing so fast all the time, that sometimes that redhead kid that was a little bit overweight that, everybody passed on becomes the look. Now everybody wants to put on freckles. Now everybody wants to have a gap tooth. And now it's like, that's the reality of our culture and our world, especially in the music business.
From songwriter to an artist and being in front of the spotlight instead of behind it, is that something you always wanted to do? Or is that somebody maybe have pushed you, hey, you know what, let's chill with the songwriting stuff. Let's get you in front on camera, on stage, and be a star? Or, like I said, is this yourself making this decision? Have people even maybe say, hey, you know what, let's not do the front of the camera. Let's keep you as a writer and behind the scenes.
Well,
how does it work?
I definitely have experienced like the doubters obviously as well, but I've never really had that issue. Most people saw me as a artist before the songwriting because I didn't know I was able to songwrite for other people versus, like I said earlier, an artist who only can write for themselves. And so then it got to the point where it was like, yo, okay, I'm hearing all these demos coming from this girl, Tayla Parx. I wonder what she would sound like as an artist. And I've been turning down deals since right after Hairspray, so like 13. And I literally waited until 24 to find a home for that. And I made sure I did my independent mixtape first, just so I could have the freedom to truly show who I am without the politics, without all of that.
So, somebody juggling with the same issues, songwriter, artist, songwriter, what advice? Circumstances could be different for everybody, but any general advice you would tell somebody kind of in the middle there, in that gray area? Of
trying to be an artist or versus a songwriter?
Yeah, or vice versa. Maybe that struggle dealing with...
I think...
Because like you say, you're boxed in, you feel
exactly,
typecast as a songwriter.
Everybody gets typecast, whether they used to type Young Thug as just a rapper at first before he did the fashion, whether they did, everybody gets typecast, even the random stranger on the street, we judge them. But it's, you really, really just have to do you. When I did this mixtape, it was a bunch of songs that I felt like I can't hear anybody that I look up to or that I'm around singing these songs. It has a different rhythm. It has a different melody approach, and I just would say always do you. You'll never go wrong, and you'll never regret it if you push who you are to the farthest capability, of doing it. They'll follow you. Popular is pop because it's called popular. You know what I'm saying? It becomes popular. It doesn't start off that way. It's a trend, and then all of a sudden, pop music, rap, pop music, jazz can be pop music. It all depends on, what you do. But you can also be the people that change the idea of that by just being you. Don't look at what everybody else is doing on the radio because, chances are, if you're listening to what's on the radio, you're 6 months, probably to a year too late, and there's a million other people that have done it. So really there's nobody that's going to do you better and do you more justice than just stick with it, whether people think you're an artist or not. We know the stories, it happened to Frank Ocean. It happened to, and look at him, he's so respected and for a very, very good reason because he really, really believed in himself. You have to be your biggest fan every time.
Do you feel like you're breaking down that typecast?
Oh yes, I'm definitely breaking down the typecast. I realized, that I have something to say, and I have a different way of saying it, and that's what makes me special. So when Vogue reached out and Billboard reached out and Nylon and Galore, when they gave me their feedback, I was like, just totally blown away because this is something that I'm letting happen very organically, and I want to keep it that way. I really want to build fans that want to listen to my story and want to know me through my music. Because if you listen to my mixtape, you know what type of car I drive, you know that I went through a breakup, you know that I went out on a few dates, and you get to know me through my music.
And that mixtape you're referring to is called?
Tailor Made. Tailor Made. Usually it's, Tailor Made for somebody else, but this time it's Tailor Made by Tayla Parx, and it's just a super, super special project to me because I've never been more vulnerable before.